Yeah, I know a lot of guys call their exes crazy. Or like, oh, we broke up while she was crazy.
Mine definitely do.
Yeah.
Some do.
um, that's a topic for another podcast. But um,
So,
so
question. Um, should couples in heterosexual relationships be friends with their exes?
um, depends.
On what?
Depends on
Whether it's
the
a man or a woman.
yeah, maybe, but it also depends on the nature of the relationship that they share, the person you're in a relationship with and their ex.
Oh, interesting. So basically, like, suppose we're talking about an ex's mine, it really depends on the relationship you share with that guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Like we both met each other's exes.
Yeah, sometimes accidentally.
Some sort of accident. We hung out with exes also.
Yeah, especially mine. I'm
Yeah.
friends with a few of my exes.
Yeah. My ex didn't live in the same city
Yeah.
as us and we're much younger.
I think it really depends on a few things. Firstly, I would find it a red flag if my partner's only friends of the opposite sex were all exes.
Yeah.
Because that goes to say that all of the women in your life are women you've been with
Right.
in some way or the other, right? So that matters. If they have like a combination of
Yeah.
friends who are exes, other female friends that,
Right.
aren't exes, that would be fine. But if they're all exes, I would be like, yeah, I don't know. I
But
feel weird.
yeah, I mean, doesn't that also depend on like generational things as well? And um, like nowadays, I think kids are a lot more mixed, or like younger people, which is great. They have a lot more mixed groups of friends. Whereas I remember growing up, like a lot of people went to all boys and all girls schools, and
Yeah.
there was a
Even
lot
in
more
like
segregation.
college and other, like, that can't be an
Sure.
excuse to not have friends of the
Yeah.
opposite sex.
But I guess my point is that you're conditioned to see there was a lot more I remember growing up with a lot more like segregation based on that.
But then you shouldn't have friends of the opposite sex anyway, right? If you think boys are like,
Yeah,
or girls are like ew unless you like them, then you shouldn't be friends
but
with
that
them.
was the I remember that being the environment that was
Sure.
pervasive at
But
that
that
time.
can't be what we end up thinking
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
end, I guess. I think the other issue would for me would be like if my partner only hangs out with their ex when I'm not around. That's a huge
yeah,
issue. That could, like they do things together, but I'm not invited.
yeah. It's gonna be an equation that's gonna have some questions for your new partner, create some questions for your partner. So it's on the person who wants to bring the ex into the friendship circle or whatever. It's on them to reassure and clarify the boundaries. I guess
Yeah.
that's the other thing. What's the like we were saying? What's
What's
the
the
nature?
boundary? Yeah, yeah. And like, what's the nature of that friendship?
Yeah.
Are you going to like concerts together? Do you just hang out on
Mm.
Friday night? Are you sharing a bed? A lot of things matter. And all of those, no, but like all of those
Yeah.
at some point could be fine, right? Like I've shared beds with like male friends. They may not
Sure.
be exes, but
Yeah.
like male friends. So I don't think that necessarily should be. It's just about how comfortable you are. Have you discussed and communicated these boundaries? Or is it just like this entitled expectation that I'm going to be friends with my exes and that's just the
Should be
end
fine.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
should be fine. It doesn't have to be fine. I think often it really depends on how much trust is there in your relationship. Is your partner like an asshole or not?
I mean, that's yeah, sure. I mean, if your partner's an asshole, there's like other problems.
Yeah, but it starts with the
Yeah.
fact that don't let him be friends with his exes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's an automatic red flag as a lot of people make it out to be. You know, like it seems to
Oh,
be a stereotype
absolutely.
that oh, shouldn't be hanging out with your
No.
ex.
In fact, this may sound extreme, but I actually think that we should all be friends with our exes in that sense. I mean,
Right.
I don't know if I would trust someone who um isn't friends with their exes by choice.
Like, what did they do?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
what did you do? Why does your ex hate you so much? Or like how could you possibly decide that you no longer want this person that you once loved in your life at all, right? That just means that if we ever broke up, you'd be horrible to deal with.
Oh, yeah.
if you're not in touch with any of your exes. I think that says a lot about, unless of course your ex doesn't want to talk to you, or it was ugly, or it was an abusive relationship. Outside of that, I mean, people break up all the time. So if you're not really friends with your ex, then what did you do?
Yeah, I know a lot of guys call their exes crazy. They're like, oh, we broke up while she was crazy.
Mine definitely do.
Yeah.
Some do.
That's a topic for another podcast. But a lot of guy friends, even friends that I have, when they talk about their breakup, they're like, yeah, she was like total nutcase, like, oh, she was crazy. Like, this is growing up, the kinds of conversations that you have. I guess in those circumstances, it's a red flag when if you have a negative, if you're dating someone and they have like such a poor relationship with their ex, that's also something to look into as to what happened.
Well, I definitely think that's true for men.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know if the same applies for women, because very often women aren't in touch with their exes because the dudes were abusive or controlling. But every time men say that, like, oh, my ex is so crazy, I usually doubt that. I want to know like what happened there, because very often it turns out that she wasn't crazy.
Yeah.
But I don't think women go around being like, my ex was like physically abusive without any, like, it's not like a casual thing that you just throw around.
Yeah, I mean, crazy is usually shorthand for like clingy or something.
Clingy or demanding, or like sets boundaries, or was like not taking his bullshit.
Yeah, there's absolutely a gendered component to this, that men and women have different power or occupy different sorts of power in a relationship, with men usually holding the power. Yeah. Yeah, okay. Okay.
So we think it's okay,
I think it's okay.
and it's
With
not.
a star.
Yeah, okay to be friends with your ex.
But communicate. You have to talk about it.
Yeah, and depends what kind of friend. I mean, you can be best friends as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Just depends on the kind of nature of the friendship.
Yeah.
And the comfort of the relationship.
As with anything, I think it's like you have to talk about stuff. You have to talk about these things, and you have to clarify and be open and prepared for a difficult conversation. But yeah, if you've managed to salvage a friendship with an ex, but you're not together for whatever reason, I think it's great to have them in your life.
Yeah, I also think it's very important that like they're actually an ex, and it's not this constant back and forth of like you hook up all the time, or you hooked up right before this relationship as well, or I've like always done that.
Yeah.
I think that's important to keep in mind. And if your partner has like issues with you being friends with your ex, I do think there's scope for a conversation there about bigger issues in the relationship to do with trust. Or maybe you think you've done everything right, but your partner just has like other issues around trust that go back to their childhood. Either way, it's something to talk about.
Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing, is how do you build trust around this in the context of your relationship? Like how do you, I guess, address your partner's concerns around this? And it's obviously valid that your partner might be a little concerned about meeting or including your ex in plans and stuff. I think that's a valid concern. It shouldn't be like, oh, you should just trust me.
Yeah, trust is not like a entitled thing that you're just given because you know that you're trustworthy. I think trust has to be earned.
And you have to be prepared to defend your position, I guess, or to at least explain or stand by, or put yourself in a position where you can put that other person's fears at ease or mind at ease.
Yeah. Wow.
Their inner world is valid. You don't know what experience that they've had and what they're dealing with. And we should make space for all of those.
We should listen to our own advice sometimes.
Yeah, I know. Don't know if we've thought about exes.
We haven't, but we did have conversations about trust, and in the start about whether trust has to be earned or should it just be like offered on a platter.
Oh yeah, I remember this. Yes.
We've come a long way since. It's our 8-year anniversary soon.
Soon?
Tomorrow?
Yeah, soon. Yeah. What else?
That's it.
That's it?
Yeah.
Bas.
Not so extreme.
Cousin.
Sure.
Why did that sound extreme? What if your ex was crazy? Like, what if the ex? No. What if your partner and your ex started dating?
This is why I specified in the start that this is like heterosexual relationship issues because,
Right.
like,
Wow, that would actually, in a non-heterosexual relationship, that could be a thing.
yeah, sure.
Whoa. Whoa.
Good for them. Maybe it wouldn't be so complicated because I feel like men and women in heterosexual societies are the ones that make this so complicated.
Yeah. I guess it boils down to this underlying kind of insecure monogamy that we have.
Yeah, which isn't really built on anything like
Yeah.
substantial. It's just, oh, it's just supposed to be this way.
But our conception of monogamy, and I guess this goes back to what I was saying about how back in my day, relationships with people of the other sex or other genders had like a, not a taboo, but they were segregated into like, these are romantic and
Yeah.
your friends are the boys, you know?
Yeah, or like women you find unattractive become friends, bros, you know?
Yeah, the one of the boys.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because underneath that assumption is this idea that like women in men's lives serve one function, which is like a like a partner or a romantic interest,
Partner, sister,
mother,
child, mother,
yeah, and they
friend or friend.
fulfill that role. Women play a
You
certain,
have boys, why do you need
yeah, exactly,
women
and
as friends?
girls hang out with other girls. So, and the guys that come into that circle would be also like a rarity back then. So there's this assumption in monogamy that basically says that men and women can't be friends.
Yeah, which is crazy though, because then we like starve people of being around the opposite gender and make it into a big deal. It's like when alcohol
Yeah,
and like sex and other things were like, oh, it's a big deal.
yeah.
And then you do it and you're like, it's really not that big of a deal.
And-
And if you just introduce it early on into the family or like in a child's environment and, you know, like let them mingle amongst each other,
Yeah.
it shouldn't matter.
I can only speak from a male perspective, but you also limit young boys in terms of their ability to connect with others, right? Like if you kind of not shame them, but you kind of put this weird, oh, you like that person with any female that they talk to, then suddenly they grow up unable to speak to women.
Also, you're isolating them from like amazing experiences.
Yeah, exactly.
Women are awesome. So
Yeah.
when they're not in touch with women, I think men grow up like a lot more, a lot less capable of having vulnerability because they don't have women in their lives.
Yeah, that's something that I suppose I had. Most of my female friendships started like later on in high school. And yeah, before that, it was quite difficult, I thought, like for me at least, to form friendships with other girls in that way. Like I was always kind of awkward and unsure what to say, even around like girls that were, you know, part of the group and stuff. It was, or part of the broader, everyone was friends back then in a way. But even then it was more difficult. And I suppose it makes it more likely that we raise boys to have a very like one-dimensional view of women if they're not interacting with women from a young age.
Yeah. Yeah. Then again, they only see them as like objects or people that, you know, serve one kind of purpose rather than fuller human beings that can be your colleagues and your friends and people that you share things with.
Yeah, and even more
Platonic relationship as well, you know, like that just doesn't cross men's mind, I guess, or women's mind if you don't really put them in those environments from an early age.
Yeah, yeah, true. And also, you're basically setting them up to learn about women from other boys
Ugh,
and have their attitude shaped by like a secondary source by other boys instead of having female friends and
learn firsthand, you
Yeah,
know, like
firsthand
what
and, like,
women are like from.
wow, these are other human beings. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm glad we found a way to make it deep.
We did. Extreme. We don't say big. Extreme. Maybe we should do that.
Found this deep.
Okay, look. You didn't.